Hello my friends, let's talk Persona 5. Before we get started, let me just apologize for the low quality video loop that you'll be seeing. Maybe I'm being extra cautious, but I want to avoid Persona 5's streaming and let's play embargo. Never in my life have I played a game so emotionally taxing as Persona 5, and as such, this game has left quite an impression on me. When you get into this game, you immediately are hit with political corruption, sexual assault, teen suicide, physical abuse, and the compliance of every possible authority figure enabling this abuse. And that's only the first week of the in-game calendar, given that Atlas's previous title, Catherine, used to hold the throne as the most stressful game of my life. Persona 5 is quickly taking that spot. I literally stopped playing the game entirely, went and bought Bloodborne, and beat the entire game in order to get stress relief from Persona 5. If you want to see the philosophical evaluation of Bloodborne that resulted from that activity, click the link at the end of the video or the link down in the description. I also bought Darkest Dungeon for the same reason, so I guess I use fantasy horror to take my mind off of realistic human atrocity. And Persona 5 has plenty of human atrocity. Regardless, having played through Persona 5, I have a theory on the philosophy that motivates the actions and decisions of Persona 5's main character, and the game as a whole. And that philosophy is what many people consider to be the exact opposite of philosophy itself. The philosophy of Persona 5 is sophistry. Let's set the stage. The 5th century BCE. It's the end of the Persian Wars. Greece was victorious, and Athens, being the largest maritime power on the Mediterranean, has become the new center of the Western world. Athens was a promise of wealth, fame, and power to anyone with the skills and the intelligence to do so. As such, wise men from all around came to make it big. In fact, the word sophist means wise man or learned person. Nowadays, we treat the word sophist as an insult, thanks to Plato and Aristotle, who treat their practices as the textbook antithesis of their teacher Socrates. Unlike Socrates and the philosophers, the sophists claimed to teach anyone how to be virtuous, as long as it was for the right price. While there is no consistent body of belief between the many sophists, what was generally consistent was teaching rhetoric and persuasion, real quote-unquote virtue, and success in politics and law in the democratic city. Teaching under the sophist is, in many different ways, learning to make the weaker argument stronger. But virtue is not described as what is good or moral to the sophist, as it means for the philosophers. Virtue, for many of the sophists, was about advantageousness. They would argue that morality was merely social convention, nomos, while nurture, phusis, was all about benefiting yourself, however possible, and circumventing notions of morality. In Persona 5, breaking social conventions, convincing others to come to your side, getting ahead in society, and above all, getting paid, is the name of the game. In Persona 5, a good portion of our time is about growing and maintaining good relationships. We carefully choose our words to get other people to value our main character, to agree with our goals or point of view, or to convince them that we are maintaining our good social conventions to throw people off of the trail of the phantom thieves. During battles, we hold up our targets at gunpoint and either convince them to join us through persuasive dialogue, require payment up front, or extort payment in the form of gifts. At night, we can head out to the streets, just like the Athenians did, to learn the skills of rhetoric from a washed-up politician. In class, we answer questions correctly in order to build our reputation among the classmates and in the school. On April 30th, Miss Chono states, in this day and age, being able to swap your mask depending on the situation is a critical talent for navigating social situations. Ms. Chono described this as a talent given by God. Protagoras, the most famous of the sophists, also described political talent and rhetoric as an ability given by God to men, and thus teachable to anyone. Another fun bit of evidence is when you read the in-game book titled Wise Man's Words. described as a collection of sayings from philosophers. Morgana responds to the book by saying, "Is this philosophy? I'm not sure I like him, he sounds condescending." Exactly the reaction you would expect from a sophist who is diametrically opposed to the philosophers. When we enter a palace and have a final confrontation with the target's corrupted shadow, the solution to fixing these people is not to destroy the shadow, but to persuade it and send it back to their self in the real world. And what I found very interesting is that throughout the game, a common animation trope takes place. Obscuring the eyes behind shadow, glasses, or hair is meant to be a visual metaphor for hidden intentions or dishonesty. In the real world, our character's 3D model always has his eyes obscured by his glasses and his hair, and in the palace and mementos, his eyes are almost always behind a mask after we awaken to the Arsène persona. With all of these mechanics pointing toward a very consistent and opportunistic approach to the truth, I can't help but think that something is being argued for here. Our main character's actions can always be described as best for that moment, but they don't necessarily follow any consistent value, principles, or arguments. The only thing that stays consistent is that we are manipulating and convincing other people in the game to agree with our point of view, or to get tons of counterfeit Japanese cash. I have a theory. After the opening scene, the trauma of being crushed under political corruption transformed our main character from a boy who actively goes out of his way to sacrifice himself for a stranger, for some objective virtue, a justice, into a boy who embraces the corruption of his society, and thus manipulates the thoughts and emotions of the people around him to improve his own social standing. The direction and justice of the Phantom Thieves is more guided by the resolve and convictions of our party members rather than the main character. But fear not, friends. I wouldn't dare ignore the obvious themes of justice and revolution in this game. Next time, I'll discuss these themes in Persona 5 and tackle the philosophy behind crime and punishment to determine if we Phantom Thieves can really claim to have any justice at all. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss it, and share this video with your friends. I don't pay anyone to advertise the channel, so the only way we can grow is with your help. Thank you for watching, I'll see you next time, and, as always, stay true.